All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in this beautiful world. Let's get started. Sorry, it took a little bit longer to get all of our speakers on the platform. Raise your hand if you don't already have speaking permissions or send me a request. My co-host Lisa is helping out with identifying y'all, but it looks like we got most of you. Did we miss anybody? Any hands? Anyone we missed? Send an invite if we've missed you. We've got 5 guests today, including our founders. Folks from the European Sandbox Accelerator. This is an organization of founders and startups within the Web3 and blockchain space, specifically working on solutions within the the EU. And everything from sustainability to DeFi, as well as enterprise solutions, well, just about everything that applies to Web3 and blockchain technologies. And today we're going to talk about how how is Web3 and blockchain enhancing Europe's sustainability goals, which are very lofty, as you well know. A lot of new regulations recently as it relates to importing and exporting of goods and traceability. And so we'll talk in general all about that. That's the theme for today. So who would like to kick things off today? Or I can call on you.
Danny, I don't mind going first.
Morning.
Yeah, there we go. Wait, we were thinking the same thing there, James. Good afternoon to you. Just after noon here in Southern Ontario on a beautiful rainy day in Canada. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and thank you for the fellow cohort members of the European Union Sandbox. I'm excited to be a part of that sandbox. We had some great meetings along with our partners, Relog from Italy. We've been discussing a whole bunch of different projects with their team, with their accounting team, their consultants they're working with as well. What we do with Morpheus.Network obviously is track and trace for supply chains. We're going to pull all that data from different API all around the world, different stakeholders. We talked about the different solutions that we put into place, leveraging blockchain all around, obviously for validation of data, for sharing of documents. They really loved our certificate of origin project that we put out there with the government of Mongolia, the MNCCI. Where we've hit on with them right now, where they seem to be incredibly interested, is this new regulation that's coming out at the end of this year, the EUDR, the European Union Deforestation Regulations. Basically, you're not supposed to buy products from companies that are cutting down all their trees. You'll be fined by that, fined for that by the end of the year. So we have to have technological solutions to trace all these different products, where they're coming from, getting geolocation pings, validating all that data, receiving regulation docs, different inspection certificates, and so on. So really fantastic project using blockchain all the way up and down to track and trace those different products for the EUDR coming out at the end of this year. Excited to do this for the EU, and then other countries, other continents will follow in suit as the European Union as well. We'll have these solutions built out already. We'll copy paste for North America down the road. I wouldn't mind doing that as well. So excited to be a part of it, and thank you, James and Lisa, for hosting as well.
Thank you, Danny. I'll go through just a brief. Well, actually, if everyone could go around our speakers and give a brief introduction of your project and yourself, that would help identify everyone, and then we can get started with the topic at hand. Holger, do you want to give us a start?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Holger. I'm one of the co-founders of Network, and before that at Spice5, and before that I worked at the IOTA Foundation for about 4.5 years, where also sustainability was a big topic. So we started to introduce the digital product passport, like the basics for it with the TLIP project. We did a lot in the environment sector. We did a lot of like energy reports to understand how blockchain can be green and how do different blockchains compare in their energy consumption and what they're able to deliver. And now with Haven, we are going the next step to make private networks like layer 2 networks easily accessible to spin them up in a very easy and very low energy consuming way, and then essentially use those for real world asset tokenization and like a couple of other use cases where privacy is like also a key aspect for the whole use case.
Thank you, Holger. Charlie Barley from Bloom Wallet.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. My name is Charlie. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Bloom. What we're building is an all-in-one hub for exploring Web3. So very much a product designed for the medium between the casual Web3 space and the DGen Web3 space, and providing you with everything you need for your Web3 journey, from trading tokens and NFTs to interacting, covering the many utilities of Web3. So we came into the European Blockchain Sandbox as part of a consortium of partners, together with IOTA Foundation, Haven, ID Now, and Vault ID. The idea being that with the upcoming MiCA regulation, we need a seamless way for users to be able to complete KYC in crypto. And as you can imagine, with the type of product that we're building with Bloom, this all-encompassing Web3 portal, you're going to be interacting with all sorts of different providers, whether it's DeFi, whether it's centralized service providers like exchanges. We want to create a solution that allows you to do one singular KYC event and then reuse that across all sorts of different blockchain services. So very excited to be here today.
Thank you very much, Charlie.
Thanks for hosting.
Let's see who else we have here. Tom.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invite. Really excited to be here as well. So my name is Tom Johnson. I work at the IOTA Foundation in the legal and regulatory team. IOTA is a layer 1 protocol, so we've always been quite focused on sustainability and industrial use cases, and very excited to work with companies like Haven, Bloom, and ID Now and Vault ID as part of the consortium to work on the Web3 identification solution in the European Blockchain Sandbox. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you for joining us. And Owen.
Hi, nice to meet you. And again, I just want to thank you as well for putting together such a great event. And thank you. So I'm Owen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of True. True is a layer 1 blockchain with 3 main pillars, I suppose, as our focus, which is tokenization of real-world assets, the digitalization of identities, both investors and corporate identities. And we're, interestingly, I suppose, focused on sustainability and what we call, I suppose, triple bottom line companies. So by digitizing the identities and the assets, we then have included, I suppose, and maybe people here in the world be familiar with, like an Oracle, which is actually an AI engine for monitoring and risk analysis of greenwashing. So we were lucky enough to be chosen for the GFIN, which is the Global Financial Innovation Network, which is 15 of the world's regulators, and we were able to kind of build our first prototype in this. So that's what True is. It's a layer 1 protocol and an infrastructure play for financial asset managers and people who want to build tools around proper governance of ESG regulations and in line with the new SFDR and some of the CDSR regulations. That's True.
Thank you very much. And Andre, are you available? Lisa, did we give Andre the talking stick? I'm trying to see here. BCL Drenthi. Raise your hand, Andre, if you're there. I'll try to find you. Nope, he's not here. Okay, well, let's get started with the question then. I'll send this out to Owen. How is Web3 helping Europe as a whole, with sustainability goals? Where do you see the trends happening within legislation, and how blockchain can align with that?
I suppose for me, I think it depends on how deep you want me to go with that question, right? And because I believe that Web3 at its core, and I mean like the true, the true way of structuring Web3 technology in aligning digital identity with the digitalization of assets, but done in a decentralized way, which is different to the way that we store old Web2 data. I think that is actually fundamentally built towards ESG, right? So it's environmentally better architected, it's socially better structured, right? Because most people here have mentioned identity solutions, and we're probably all very aware of, you know, the benefits, the social implications of us all owning our own data and our self-sovereign identities. I think both of those things come together, create very good governance. So I think at the core of it, it's built for it. I think at a regulatory level, we are probably cursed and blessed in Europe in the fact that we have so many different regulations coming into place at the same time, including digital identity regulations, coupled with new MiCA, market and crypto assets regulations. We've new European crowdfunding regulations, and of course we've got the new corporate sustainable disclosure regulations and the sustainable financial disclosure regulations, right? So a plethora of stuff for people to adhere to in terms of regulatory standards, and it's going to be very complicated. I think that we're getting into the point of a need of transparency, that the only solution for all of the things I just mentioned is versions of Web3, either in their pure instance or hybrids with the real world.
Fascinating. It looks like Andre has joined. Hi, Andre.
Sure. Hi.
Just a brief introduction of yourself and project. I know you're with, of course, IoT Netherlands, but
yeah. So my name is Adrie Wisman, and we have produced a solution for purpose-bound money, and that's what we use to enter the regulatory sandbox. Purpose-bound money is programmable money, right? So everything that CBDCs in Europe are going to be, right? They're going to be everything but programmable. That's what we do. So we help governments, companies, organizations to distribute subsidies, grants, budgets in a very secure and safe way.
And what are you most excited about right now with European sustainability goals and how blockchain and Web3 are enhancing that on topic?
Well, it gives us the chance to really show what you can do with blockchain, with DLTs. I mean, there are lots of problems with sustainability, and everybody wants to make steps, leaps even. And I think it's a great opportunity to show what blockchain is capable of. And of course, there are lots of prejudice of how much energy it costs, etc. But there are better blockchains than Bitcoin, so to speak, right? Which I always refer to as the steam engine of blockchain. So it's our turn to shine and help with this, with solving this problem.
Noam, thoughts on that? Noam is one of our co-founders, of course, and our co-host today. Noam, your thoughts on that?
Hey, hey everyone, and hey James. Thanks once again for putting this together and hosting. I'm going to keep my thoughts very, very brief. I'm actually up north, northern Ontario, and I'm on a Starlink internet connection right now, which is fantastic, but it is raining tremendously here, and it is overcast, and my audio did cut in and out a few times, so I'm going to just keep my comments very short and just to say a quick hi. And James, if it's okay, I'll pass this question on to back to you or someone else, if that's okay. But hello, everyone.
Stay dry. And a shameless plug there for Elon. Holger, your thoughts?
Yes.
Yeah, from my point of view, there are like a number of topics where blockchain can really shine, because where blockchain is really good is, of course, like understanding like who has how much of what, and it has like absolutely excellent audit capabilities due to the immutability factor. And we've been talking to, I would say, 200, 300 multinational organizations over the course of the past 6 years, 7 years. And while the regulation was still very unclear, everybody was quite hesitant because all the organizations, they were like a bit afraid to like be in jail with one leg, because it was unclear what data can now be saved on the blockchain, how can it be used. But now that we have MiCA and like more regulation coming up, that it's starting to become also like more of a commodity, where we see more service providers around blockchain, where we see like more automation happening, I think like this is now really the key where blockchain can shine. So as a tool for automation and to really understand how can we do, let's say, carbon tracking in an easy way? How can we now start to build renewable energy grids, these microgrids where we can really embed a secure module directly in the solar module to understand how much energy has been produced, it's tamper-proof and so on. We already had supply chain transparency, and we see like a huge boom of tokenization of environmental assets like CO2 carbon tracking and so on. And all of this like really plays into the hand of blockchain because it provides this like single source of truth, and it helps organizations to automate. And for me, like this is one of the most fascinating, aspects of a technology which is available globally, where everybody can use it. You can call it, I don't know, maybe even like a public good, to really like tap into this global data backbone and use it for documentation and for additional, aspects to really rely upon the data, tokenize stuff in a way more easier way than having, I don't know, like a lot of people stand in front of the notary. Now it's easier digital process. And this is for me like the most fascinating topic around it, and how we can make it like, use the technology to push sustainability.
Sure. Dan, your hand's raised.
Yeah, just to build on what Holger was saying, which is absolutely fascinating. And he mentioned the automation of all those different systems together, leveraging all that data and the audit trails. I think of, obviously being a supply chain person with a supply chain background, I think of all those different systems involved, different blockchains, validating different data. We're looking at digital IDs, KYCs, sustainability data, what we're working on with the EU DR, the deforestation regulation. If we can take all these different systems, connect them together in a supply chain, when you have an ERP connecting to a TMS, connecting to a WMS, all those different systems are different, but that data can be leveraged to push ahead all that automation. That's what we're going to have, all these different systems where that, let's say, KYC has been completed, you can push ahead automatically to work with that, for client or vendor, whatever it is. I think this automation is going to just increase the speed of business globally and create a lot of safety around the people you're doing business with as well. So great comments, Holger, and I'm excited for the future for this, and all these different systems and solutions we're building are going to tie in together and create a whole new world.
And Holger, I think that's the sweet spot, actually. Sorry for interrupting, but just to touch on what you're saying there, like these interoperability of systems and even like using self-sovereign identities and zero knowledge proof, it means that we can all be in like a co-opetition type space, right? Where there's more value in more consensus and more trust. There's the more transparent and the more, we're in this very unique, sweet space and time in the world. And Web3, I think, is just so built for it. But I just thought it was really good to hear how you're thinking in the same kind of way, right? So yeah, I thought it was interesting. We've all identity solutions, right? But the interoperability of them is where we're all going to win, right? So sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to say a great point.
Keep the conversation lively. Feel free to jump in at any time. You don't need my permission to speak if you've got the talking stick. Charlie, your thoughts? Haven't heard from you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the space is maturing, right? So like some of these use cases on the more sort of the green side and the conservation side and the data side, everything around energy tracking, trading, carbon credit trading, waste management, green financing, they've been around in the space for many, many years. But they were always sort of like seen as a little bit unsexy, I would say, right? Like you had the bulk of attention from funding in the space going towards DeFi and, more degen products and sort of speculative assets and things like that. So I think what's actually happened recently, which has been a nice shift, is a move to include these more real world implementations in the general scope of the types of projects that are getting funding now. So like, DePen is a huge narrative now, real world assets are a huge narrative now, and all of those play into this space very, very well. So I think from my perspective, I think it's just good to have seen the space mature over multiple years and actually see where people are placing their attention. And it's not as narrowly speculative as it once was.
Certainly. Are we seeing examples of European Global 1000 companies that are successfully managing their environmental and social governance agendas and goals with particular, any logos in particular that stand out and that there are use cases and success stories? That's an open question to anyone.
I think we are seeing the beginning of it, because when we talk to like all of those corporates, typically the innovation department was responsible for handling new topics. And they looked at AI, they looked at blockchain, and they looked at like 99 other new technologies. And then it came down to those like 5 people to decide, how can this company now use blockchain? And it touch points not only on the tech, but it touch points on the how they do their processes, how to integrate it into the ERP system. No, but then before that, I think this is absolutely a critical point, because many people only see the tech, and they essentially see the tech as the as the hammer for every problem. But that's not it. The tech is only in the end like, I don't know, 15% or maybe 20%. But the other 80% is like creating processes, creating say like a setup for organizations, for standard tooling to really adopt it in a really easy way. And what we are now seeing is that more and more startups are popping up, which is also like a nice natural process. And those startups are then the innovators, which are usually, not always, because there are some corporates which invest in innovation departments with more people who set up like their own blockchain team, but also to say most don't do it. No? And they're like waiting for a startup or for a company to grow to offer a service, and then they usually buy like a turnkey solution for this. And this is the direction I'm seeing. And you see it like in other technologies as well, of course, because a larger corporate is usually having like a hard time of innovating on those technologies, and for them it's like easier to just in the end buy a turnkey solution. And now we are at this point, no? Like you see companies like, I don't know, like Tokenize it, and like a lot of other ones, like what Dan also described before, what their organization is doing, where we get all of these solutions and where it's like way easier to adopt. So you don't have to start your own project, but essentially the corporate is like reducing the time to market. It's fitting into the systems way better. And so I would expect now that over the next like 2 years, we're going to see like a huge ramp up. Now that the regulatory stuff is clear, that we have the startup landscape sorted out, innovation capital is going there, and those companies are going to get bought. And this is like how it usually like moves towards the larger corporates. This doesn't say that, or doesn't mean that no corporate is doing it, because in the banking sector, of course, there's a lot of blockchain buzz going on. But I think we are going to see like a huge ramp up now over the next 2 years.
Yeah, certainly.
One quick comment on that too. Sorry, James, just to build on that as well. One thing that Morpheus has benefited from a lot. It'd be great if these companies, let's say they're just saying, we want to clean up our supply chains, want to clean up our activity, lower our CO2 just because it's good for the world. That'd be great. But we've actually seen it more of a top-down approach, where things like, net zero 2050 or, the new FSMA regulation in the United States pushing on this, food certification solution. So basically, or even let's say the certificate of origin solution, that's a government-based solution. So as much as we'd love companies to take the torch and invest in these amazing solutions, if they're being forced to by the EU, by their different governments who are controlling them, that's a great benefit for us as the solutions that are just waiting as wide receivers to catch. As these fullbacks to catch a pass to just finish it off. So apologies for the lack of a football.
That's very North American. I'm going to agree with that comment as well, and I totally agree with actually both of what you say. And I suppose when you're thinking about it, like you're thinking about the actual guy who's signing off the bottom line on it, and I think we're in again a bit of a unique position where it was hard to get these people to see the vision before, because there was just too much, even like personal risk, right? It's like, well, I'm not going to be the guy who's going to bring this to the board, right? But now they've got like a professional risk on top of like this massive risk. Like if we don't get ahead of this, and we've got all of these things coming in line, the transparency and like the old days of spreadsheets are gone. So now we're actually putting ourselves at risk by not adopting the new technology. And I think this is like the weighing scales that is kind of slightly tipping in our favor, which now we're getting those, big four conversations where they're like, oh, we totally see where this is going to be going in the future. So I'm just like, I'm just kind of agreeing with the point, but I think it's kind of funny where, a lot of this boils down to risk, and all of a sudden the risk is shifted in our favor by not adopting, which is cool, I think.
Certainly. I think that would be a pity. I mean, now you're saying, well, it's nice to have regulators tell companies what to do, and now we have a default yes instead of a default no. But wouldn't it be nice if by their own initiative they would find no better solution than this? I mean, isn't that, I mean, the basic problem of blockchain? I always say people buy cars, not engines, right? So we don't have to sell them the technology; we have to sell them the solution. So if you make that is,
sorry, I totally agree, but I think when we're specifically talking about sustainability and we're talking about like these specific things that we're talking about, right? And the reason that this is such a big problem is somewhere between the past, the present, and the future, right? And on like ESG and, you know, philanthropy around this kind of stuff and environment, so it's very old. What's not as old is the incentivization around lying about what you're doing, and that has become probably the biggest problem, you know. And that's, I think, where we're all trying to get to the solution. So I think there's somewhere in between. And I'm not a young gen, whatever they're called now, but I think that there is a line somewhere in like where there's an evolution of thinking around circularity and what a true circular company actually means. And unfortunately, I think the younger generation have an edge on us in that that's just how they think. So I'm qualified as a horticultural scientist. So I think about this very much from like almost like a grassroots level, and where is the instant pain, I suppose, where some of this happens. And I think partially where it gets hard for people to figure out what's going on is that we've got what I would consider a linear company that is built about putting one thing in one end and getting 10 things out the other end. And they're trying to fix an ESG score of something that's probably so far broken, it's just not in the same realm. And then you've got new innovative companies that are super profitable, but because they come from a fundamentally different place in their thinking and like in the newer evolution of science, they're circular by their core. So we see it almost like in a chord that like there's companies that like see 100 times more benefit because they're doing everything right in having the systems we're talking about. And there will always be the struggle for some of the legacy stuff for them to try to change their story, or, you know, what we say, what got you here won't get you there, right? So they told a great story to get here, but no, with the technologies available, they need to prove it.
I would completely agree with that, and I would just from a legal perspective, I just want to say that, you know, regulation can play a really important part in this as well. I think the regulatory development has pushed DPPs into the market. You know, they're becoming mandatory. If you just, for example, think of the eco-design regulation that entered into force last month in the EU. You know, starting with large corporations. And then, for example, listed companies. I think that's where it starts, and then it moves into smaller companies. You know, these regulations are built like that, but it can also apply indirectly. I think you know, a lot more companies are caught by the need to you know, collect ESG data indirectly as well, because if you're a company that provides services to a large corporation, you will be asked you know, for data about how the product was manufactured and all this information that the large corporation needs for their own reporting requirements. So I think even if the regulation sort of starts at the top and then sort of gradually it's broadened to more companies, indirectly other companies will also be caught because they need to provide the data to their customers as part of, you know, their process of supplying services and products to large corporations. And I think that's good.
When you mentioned that, I'm just going to maybe mention this as something else that is something that in line with that, but maybe not directly in line with sustainability, would be like DORA, and like the amount of stuff that is coming at the EU businesses. Like I often think about it as like the worst problem that none of them know is happening. If you know, like, so this DORA stuff, which is the Operation Resilience Act, that starts to now really start to get into the different up and down chains. And sorry not to go off track, but it's kind of in line with what you're saying there with the amount of third-party validations you need to do.
Absolutely, and I think, like Holger mentioned earlier, it's a huge opportunity for companies to build solutions, build new tech solutions that actually solve this problem. And I think it's fantastic that there are so many companies in the Web3 industry that are building solutions for that, because blockchain is just perfect for it. It is absolutely a perfect tool for tracking data and validating data. So really good to see that.
My one comment just about the regulators coming into play and in a sense forcing companies to use these clean energy solutions. I see that as an absolute necessity. Companies are there, the businesses are there to make money. If they're going to do it in the cleanest way possible, it's going to cost a little bit more money to do it in that fashion. Whether in the long run that's good for the planet, obviously it is, and that's what regulators have to make sure to keep these companies in check. I don't think we're having the same regulation. I know we're not having the same regulation all around the world. So if Europe is sort of that leader, companies are cleaning it up, we're building these solutions. And yes, the smaller players and different stakeholders and supply chains will contribute to it. But hopefully this will, like I said before, use these solutions, copy paste them for Asia, for Africa, for North America, and all over the place. This will be the first step. And the regulators will be a big part of it because companies are just going to want to make money. And that's what we're seeing everywhere around the world. So we're going to need the EU to take that first step.
Yeah.
The sandbox.
And just on that, and just to add to that point, in that, like, so I always get these things mixed up. Is it the CSDR, the Corporate Sustainable Development Regulation? Long story short, that's a great point, because all of the operators know that are now importing into the EU from Asia, from all of these kind of places. You'll see a massive amount of reports about, like, a little bit of panic, kind of saying, hang on a second, although we're not operating in here, they're now asking us for all of these validations and verifications to move in. And with the kind of EU taxonomy and this global workforce or workshop I think they have, it is a strange ripple effect from one jurisdiction that has had this kind of global, which is strange, effect. Has anybody kind of witnessed that? And that, like, it is a very strong EU taxonomy, but it's being spoken about at like a global regulatory level.
My apologies. That was an open question, I think, to the forum that they knew about.
Sorry. What I suppose just to frame it a little bit better. For example, the GFIN would be a global financial innovation network, which is a collaboration of a lot of world banks outside of Europe. And I suppose there is so much economy now flowing into Europe, but all of those people are also subject to these regulations by supplying into Europe, even though they're not European operators. Do you get what I'm saying?
100%. Yeah, it's down to scope 3. When you're doing sustainability data as well, you got to know all the different stakeholders involved down the supply chain, and that's where it gets complicated. 80% of the carbon emissions are not in the direct supply chain of the company. It's all in the stakeholders involved in China, the shipping, and so on and so forth. So yeah, we're going to need all those global companies to contribute, and we're obviously in the right time, in the right place to put this through, and having the EU backing us, that's fantastic as well.
In Europe, there are regulations as it relates to supply chain documentation, right? There's a law in Germany that requires that all manufacturers have to track and trace all of their parts. So this greatly affects BMW and Mercedes-Benz, and we've seen blockchain solutions come from this, where chains of custody are now being able to. BMW has parts chain, right? They're able to track all of their of the individual suppliers' shipments into their manufacturing facilities, thereby complying to Germany's laws. We're starting to see that now with the U.S. having IDOT, right? The Department of Highway is now requiring much more stringent documentation of what's on the road, right? What's going where and how. And we're seeing this. We're seeing legislation happen long before there's even a thought about technologies. Our quantum ledgers, I mean, is this where we're headed on a government level? Like, in other words, are governments now spinning up their own quantum ledger, like Amazon's quantum ledger, to handle their own data, or do you see this as a boom for those distributed ledger technologies as a service? Open question, anyway.
I think that the old systems are so legacy, right? But they are in a perfect position to, if they adopt all of this technology, right, you could have like proper sources of trust and truth. And you might see a lot of like the internal problems that you see, certainly look within the Irish infrastructure, like the health services and things like that. Like, there is a massive problem with all legacy government systems not being totally joined up. And a lot of that comes back to identity and a lot of the things we talk about in Web3. I think they should wrap all around the industry, but whether they will, I don't know. The central bank seem to be first to move.
You think that they'll take their cues from the central bank?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, there's the central banks seem to. One thing about the regulators, which I think is interesting, if you look at it from a position that like they're just independents who are trying to put in investor protections around the regulators, and they're really not there to stifle business. So then if you were to look at like the plethora of regulations that they have around investment, around marketing crypto assets, virtual asset service providers, and digital identities, this stuff is built for us, right? So when you look at hybriding them, you can now start thinking about like really interoperable ecosystems, where if we've all got digital identity standards and levels of verifications and verified credentials that we're attaching to these, and it could be even in like impact environment, or it could be in a different medtech environment. But those things are done to a standard that the regulators understand, the digital identity standard, so we can interoperate with the institutions, but with each other. We're starting to create like micro ecosystems that are interoperable, like we all envision, and people can come and choose suites of tools to, add into their multi-interoperable ecosystems that they're building themselves. And that transparency, I think, is where we're all trying to get to, I think.
Certainly. Andre, question for you. You work within local municipalities around legislation. What are you seeing in the Netherlands is trendy? What are some exciting use cases or success stories right now?
What we're doing is we are producing purpose-bound money, right? So money that can only be spent on the goals that the issuer meant to be. So we did a number of projects on sustainability, right? So we did our first energy clip here, where 50,000 families got a wallet and tokens with which they could only buy energy-saving products. We had a project where we helped people who received relief money because of energy poverty, and they could only buy energy-saving products. All right, so we are a little bit more bottom-up instead of top-down. We believe in putting money in the hands of people to buy sustainable products, and in that way, we got nearly 100,000 active users with a blockchain application on their phone in the past 2 years. And the next projects that are coming up is, for instance, using purpose-bound money to make people eat healthier in Groningen. And we just did a project there to make office buildings more sustainable, giving entrepreneurs subsidy money, which they could only spend on making their office buildings more sustainable. So yeah, that's something that the banks have to work on. Like, we're in this regulatory sandbox, and our use case is hugely popular, as I got to hear from Bird and Bird. We haven't received any names, but purpose-bound money is something that the banks are on national levels are very, very interested in, of course. And we are using that mainly for sustainability, but also for other projects. So yeah, like I said, we are not talking about doing projects in the future, but we are just handing out subsidy money for sustainable purposes. And we got projects going on in Holland, in Germany, and we're looking into other countries, and many other national banks from Spain and other countries are looking into our use case, into the regulatory sandbox.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. We've gone a little bit over. We're trying to keep these things tight around 30 minutes, but it's been such a great conversation. I'll just let everyone go around the room real quick and just give their closing comments and thoughts. And then, of course, if anyone is interested in learning more about Haven or IoT Netherlands, True, Bloom Wallet, we have all of their official X accounts posted on our recent announcements regarding this space. You can certainly drill into, find out more about them, and of course the European Sandbox. But let's just go around the room real quick with your closing comments and your hopes and dreams for 2025, as it relates, of course, to ESG and sustainability within the EU.
I don't mind going first. Just gonna, again, express my excitement about this EU Sandbox. Excited about the technology. I'm gonna say this top-down approach again is just so essential. I heard the one speaker mention eating healthy. Getting basically paid to eat healthy, or some sort of like benefits for that. And I think that a lot of people will decide to eat healthy based on the repercussions from eating unhealthy. Whether it's their doctor saying to them, you're going to die, you're going to have a heart attack, you don't stop being unhealthy, or if they're gaining weight, or if they're having trouble getting up the steps, or whatever it is, they're having some, direct feedback from eating unhealthy, which forces them to eat healthy. When it comes to cleaning up the environment, companies who are making more money to be environmentally unsafe aren't necessarily feeling that direct feedback at this current moment. They're just putting it out in the air, and the entire Earth is basically feeding off, their lack of efficiency. So excited for the EU to institute these specific sustainability goals. We're going to see the whole world clean up based on this as well. I'm excited for all these different projects that are a part of it, including Morpheus.Network as well. So thank you so much, James and Lisa.
You bet. No?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I hope my audio holds up well. This has been a great conversation. And I really love the focus of real world project and real world impacts. This entire space, the blockchain space and crypto space, I think is so hungry for more success stories, not just more exchanges and more DeFi and meme coins. There's such a huge hunger for more projects which actually has a positive impact on climate or end users. And, Dan and myself and James and everyone at Morpheus.Network, we are such big supporters and advocates of any project that is, has a real impact. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to organize this conversation, to get some great projects in the room. So thank you all for participating. And James, thank you as always for hosting.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining. And again, if you want to learn more about Haven and IoT Netherlands, True, or Bloom Wallet, please visit our official X space. There we have some links to their projects' official pages, as well as our speakers' personal pages. Please like, follow, and share with your friends. This has been recorded, so feel free to spread it around. We find that we get about 10x well after the when we remember to record, that is, we get about 10x viewership long after people visit live. So please share if you thought this was interesting, and we'll see you next Friday when we are speaking with, let me pull that up, sorry. Our guests will be still undetermined, sorry. We're waiting for confirmation before I say anything. We're waiting still for confirmation, but it should be another riveting conversation about timely timely topics within blockchain, Web3, and of course, the supply chain industry. So until next week, thanks very much, everyone. And thanks all of our guests for joining today. We look forward to more conversations with you guys in the halls and around the water cooler at our virtual blockchain sandbox. Thanks very much, everyone.
One last comment, James. Just one quick last comment as well. If anybody is attending Futurist this next week in Toronto, that is the largest crypto conference in all of Canada. I actually have a fireside chat along with Jillian Godsill, is also in this X space as well. And Noam's going to be down there in Toronto as well. So if you're going to the Futurist concert, reach out to us, reach out to the team. Love to meet people from the community, other projects, whoever's there. Come to Futurist this year. It's going to be the biggest crypto conference in the history of Canada. So
indeed, and a lot of exciting side events as well that we certainly will be telling everyone about so they can tune in virtually. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great weekend. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.